With the word cinematography, we mean the showing of moving pictures, and if we focus on this definition, we find many forerunners of the cinema. For example, in 100 BC, there were the Chinese shadows, and in 1490, Da Vinci's camera obscura or dark chamber. The most recent forerunner is the cinematograph by Auguste Louis Lumière at the end of the 19th century. It was the result of studies with the aim to find a way to give the impression of movement thanks to a very fast sequence of pictures. At first, short films which lasted not more than a minute needed an external narrator, but then, year after year, they started to add subtitles and later, in the 30s, silent films became sound films. This led to two new techniques: dubbing or superimposition of new dialogues in different language, and the adding of a soundtrack. New editing methods were created to make the stories more interesting and compelling, changing the scenes rapidly without confusing spectators. The first studios developed all around the world at the beginning of the 20th century, and the most important ones were Universal Pictures in Hollywood and Cinecittà in Rome. In the United States, the most successful genres were musical, comedy, and romantic drama. Meanwhile, in Europe, due to the Second World War, an introspective genre developed to condemn the war through the cinema. In Italy, the first cinema, called Lumière, opened in 1905 in Pisa. Movies at that time were simple documentaries dedicated to popes, emperors, Italian or foreign cities. The first real movie produced in our country was The Capture of Rome by Filoteo Alberini of 1905. From 1903 to 1909, many movie studios grew, such as Milan Film, Cines, and Itala Film, and also many movie theaters in urban cities. After the Great War, the Italian cinema faced its first great crisis due to a technological underdevelopment, cost increase, and inability to cope with foreign competition, especially Hollywood production. In 1930, the first Italian sound film entitled The Song of Love by Gennaro Righelli was shown, which was a great success. This led to the introduction of new facilities and to a change in actors' generation. After its construction in 1937, under Fascism, Cinecittà made Rome the center of the Italian cinema. The spirit of movies of this period was to transmit the idea of a pacifist society and free from national conflicts. But after joining the war, the regime decided to impose politic propaganda in films. Augusto Genina and Roberto Rossellini were famous film directors of this period. Neorealism developed at the end of the Second World War, and film directors who joined the movement wanted to represent the country and his reality without any filter. Some famous movies are Rome Open City by Roberto Rossellini, The Bicycle Thieves by Vittorio De Sica, and Bellissima by Luchino Visconti. In the 50s, Fellini was the main representative of an introspective cinema with existential themes. His most important films were Nights of Cabiria and The Good Life, which contributed to make him one of the greatest artists in the 20th century. Pierpaolo Pasolini, contemporary of Fellini, was another representative of this genre, and his works were a clear opposition to the society. Some movies were Mamma Roma and The Decameron. In Italy, different genres developed in the 50s, among which the Italian comedy was the most successful one. The most important film directors were Pietro Germi with Divorce Italian Style and Mario Monicelli with Big Deal on Madonna Street. Actors worth remembering are Alberto Sordi, Vittorio Gassman, Totò, and Sofia Loren. The popular cinema was discredited, and his films were considered B-movies. Some examples of genres are spaghetti western, erotic comedy, science fiction, and detective story. During the 80s, the Italian cinema faced another important productive crisis which saw the decline of almost all genres. Worth remembering: Once Upon a Time in America by Sergio Leone, The Last Emperor by Bernardo Bertolucci, winner of 9 Oscars and 9 Donatello's David, Sorry for the Delay by Massimo Troisi, and The Little Devil by Roberto Benigni. The 90s were a turning point. Authors and their films won more and more international critic awards. Giuseppe Tornatore and his Cinema Paradiso won the Grand Prix du Jury in Cannes in 1989, and Gabriele Salvatores won the Oscar for the Best Foreign Language Film with Mediterraneo in 1992. But the international triumph of this decade was Life is Beautiful, released in 1997 by Roberto Benigni, which won 3 Oscars: Best Foreign Language Film, Benigni as Best Actor, and Best Score. In the new millennium, movies which have been most successful were comedies and those called cinepanettoni, starring Christian De Sica and Massimo Boldi. But there are many others appreciated by critics. Gabriele Muccino, with his films The Last Kiss, the sequel Kiss Me Again, and those shot in America with Will Smith, The Pursuit of Happiness and 7 Pounds. Matteo Garrone with his films Gomorrah and Reality, winners of the Grand Prix du Jury in Cannes, and Paolo Sorrentino, who won the jury prize in Cannes with Il Divo in 2008. The most recent success for the Italian cinema is The Great Beauty, directed by Paolo Sorrentino, featuring Tony Servillo and Sabrina Ferilli, which won 3 awards in 2014: the Golden Globe for Best Foreign Language Film, the BAFTA Award, and lastly, the Oscar for Best Foreign Language Film.